Welcome back to another episode of the Bleav Georgia Tech Podcast. We are your co-hosts, Jackson Caudill. That is RJ Schaefer, and this is going to be a brief one. We're coming to you live after, or you'll get this a little bit later. It's not live, but we're coming to you after Georgia Tech's 29-point shellacking at the hands of Wake Forest. And I don't know about you, RJ. I guess I should ask you how you're doing first of all.
This is like we had such an up and down week last week, and now I feel like it's just downhill from here.
Yeah, that the thing is, Damon Stoudemire opened his press conference by saying, we got our ass whooped. Do y'all got any questions? And he also said, what he hated, or one of the points he made that I thought was interesting during his post-game press conference was all the strategy was taken out of the game. Like there was no strategy to it after like the first 10, 15 minutes because they were down by so much. And all he said was like, y'all just got to play hard. Like there was no doing anything different. There just was no strategizing to it. And that's pretty much how we have to talk about this. Like there's just nothing. This game was over in like 5 minutes. And like I'm not exaggerating at all. Like that game was over in 5 minutes for anybody that stuck around and watched it more than the first little bit of the game. So Reeves hits a three to open the game. It's 3-0. And then Wake Forest proceeds to go on a 29-2 run. And Georgia Tech does not. The 2 points that they scored were from free throws. They missed 21 straight shots and did not score for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
Maybe it was more than that. Maybe I'm leaving off a little bit, but I've never seen that in a college basketball game. That I know of. Like I've seen some. Now I'll at least say this. I made a joke at halftime. Like I made fun of Miami a lot yesterday because they had like 38 points, I think, against Virginia. And I guess Georgia Tech got more than that. They finished with 51. They lost by 29. So I guess they played a little better in the second half. But this game was over really before it started. And I don't have any really deep in-depth thoughts to it other than it was just flat out embarrassing.
Yeah, and it's a combination of Wake Forest played really aggressive, like they played off the ball screen really aggressive, and it's just like you can't miss 21 shots in a row and ever win a basketball game. Like you're never ever gonna start 1 of 22 and win. It's just not. It's not possible. You can go into at some points we played selfish ball. Um, there wasn't a lot of energy, but that was from the start. Like,
And Nate George, he talked to us after the game, and he made a pretty interesting comment. Says there was just something off in warm-ups. Like he
yeah,
was, he
he
was.
did
I
say
don't know
that.
if you saw that, but yeah, he was saying there's just something off in warm-ups. And look, I don't know. I don't know if it was it's Wake Forest. It's hard to get up for this game. It's not North Carolina. It's not Duke. It's not Virginia. It's not Clemson. Like I don't know if that was it. It better not have been because like there were 10 and 12 going into that game. Like you can't be taking anybody lightly. And me and you've both said that there's the ACC is pretty down this year. We think, and there's Wake Forest is a pretty good team. I think we both also said this was a bad matchup just from a stylistic perspective. Just Wake Forest plays fast. They can score the ball really at will. Like they're 25th in the nation in scoring, fourth in the ACC. Like they're a really good offensive team, but like Georgia Tech was just missing a lot of shots near the rim, and then Wake Forest was dominating in the paint. Like I mean, there was a point in the game where they were shooting like 4%. I think is what it was at one point. They finished. Final numbers were 28% from the field, 13% from three, 3 of 24. And Georgia Tech came into the game second in 3-point attempts. Like this is a team that really relies on the three ball, and they're not one of the best shooting teams in the ACC, but they really rely on it. Like that's a lot of their offense. If Brian Dongo's not, he's the only paint presence really they have. Like they have to rely on the outside shot a lot. But this was just ugly from start to finish. There wasn't even really anything in the second half, I can say. I mean, Nate George and Ndongo, they kind of got a pick and roll thing going there for like 3 or 4 minutes where it was just possession after possession. He'd roll to the basket and he'd find him, and it was good stuff. But like I don't know how much should I pump that up. Like, they were down by like 35 points. I guess I don't know, like, because the one, me and you were talking before the show, the one thing you could hang your hat on with Georgia Tech this year, despite the record, was that they weren't getting blown out in any games. Like, Cincinnati and Virginia Tech aside, I'll say, but they weren't getting blown out in any games. And, you could see some improvements in some areas, but like this felt like a giant leap backwards. I don't know if you feel the same way.
This felt like I didn't even feel like I was watching a Georgia Tech game. I felt like I was watching D2 basketball plays Duke at home.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no energy on the floor. Like this did not feel like the same Georgia Tech team that it was a week ago.
No, and I'm higher on Wake Forest than most. I think they're a team that can make a surprise run in the ACC tournament, not win it, but like if you told me they got to the semifinals or something and upset a team or two, I wouldn't be shocked at that. Like they got a really good start and five and a really good team, but they should not be beating Georgia Tech by 29 points. But it was like me and you said Sunday. Like, why is their Ken Palm ranking so high? Because they bludgeon teams with bad records. They did it with Syracuse. They've done it with numerous other teams this year, and they did it tonight. So that just hats off to them. That's all you can say. But we're not going to be here long. But like I think the main thing we wanted to talk about is like, okay, what now? Because like you have to put this out of your memory as like absolutely fast as you can. Like this cannot linger. Like, to borrow a football phrase, you got to bury the tape. Like you cannot. I just don't know what you take out of this game, good or bad. Like you can maybe just chalk it up to a bad performance, and it's possible. Like I tweeted this out earlier. Like, do you know that the North Carolina game was just a week ago? It doesn't feel like it, but it was 1 week ago tonight when they upset the hot, and like they got beat again tonight. But at the time, they were arguably the hottest team in the country. And then, you only lose by 6 on the road to a good NC State team. And then, like, tonight, it just feels like I'm hoping for their sake that this is just like an aberration. But we talked about it on Sunday. You have to win that Louisville game now. Like, even if you won tonight by some chance, like, you had to win that game, especially, if Louisville wins that game, Georgia Tech will go to the bottom of the ACC. Like, that would be for all the good that Damon Stoudemire's done this year with beating some of the bigger teams. Recruiting is pretty well. Like you can't finish last.
Yeah, and you look at like even a week ago, like our last podcast, you look at what we were talking about. We were saying it was possible for Georgia Tech to end top 5. Now it's not unrealistic to say we could be very last because coming off of a big loss, playing another opponent that you might play down to or might not take seriously, which Nate George did talk about that. He was saying like it doesn't matter if it's North Carolina or if it's Notre Dame, like we gotta keep the same energy. And
he didn't outright say, "Hey, we didn't take them seriously." It would be pretty easy to draw that conclusion.
Yeah.
From what he said, but I will at least say he didn't come out outright and say it. But yeah, just looking at the standings, like, yeah, Notre Dame and Louisville are both 2-9. Notre Dame's already beat Tech once, and they do play again after Louisville. Yeah, if Louisville beats Georgia Tech, they'll fall to 14th. They won't fall to dead last, but you're a Notre Dame loss away from that happening, and there's probably not a whole wiggle room to move up anymore. You're 2 games behind Boston College. You're 3 games behind Pitt. And Pitt beat Georgia Tech, so that's almost irrelevant. And then you're a few games behind Syracuse, which they haven't played yet. They will in I think a week from Saturday. But yeah, the next 2 games are pretty vital, just so you can stay out of the absolute bottom, because like, if you're playing in that 10 to 15 game in the ACC tournament, it's just going to make it a whole lot harder on yourself. Like, because as hard as it might be to believe right now in the moment, but like I do think they can win a very first round game. Like if they get matched up with like Boston College or Pitt, like they can win that game. And you want to win a game in the ACC tournament. You don't want to show up and go home the very first day. So that's a ways down the road. Like we still got about 8-9 games left, I think. So, but this was a disaster. Not much else I can say about it. You got anything else before we wrap this up?
I mean, not really. I just think we got to stay, stay where our feet are. Kind of what Michigan's football, that was like their motto this year. Just, you can't control the past. You can't control other teams. You can only control your team right now.
Yep.
And I think we go at Louisville, and I think that's a winnable game, and I think we got to stay at that game right now, and I think, good things can happen from there.
Can't let one loss turn into two.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a saying. It's true. You can't let it happen. But look, we know it sucks when your favorite team loses and it's hard to listen. But if you did stick around and listen, we really appreciate it. We appreciate all the support. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Listen on podcast, be sure to leave us a rating. Let us know what we're doing, what we can do better, all that type of stuff. And like we said, it sucks, especially losses like this. I remember doing a solo podcast when I had my own thing after the Boston College football game this year. And I think I said the same thing, like, it sucks. But if you're listening, we do support you, or we really appreciate the support and thankful for all of it. But that's going to do it for us. We'll be around later this week to talk, anything that's going on Georgia Tech wise, but we'll definitely preview the Louisville game. We should be there after that one, but that's RJ. This is Jackson. Thank you for listening.